Ladies and gentlemen, now that Backlash 2025 is in the books, it is time to go full speed ahead towards one of the most important WWE premium live events of the entire year, Money in the Bank, happening in Los Angeles, California. So in today's video, we're going to be trying to predict every single match that could potentially happen at Money in the Bank. I'm going to tell you who could participate in those matches and why it could make sense for these matches to take place at Money in the Bank. And then closer to the actual Money in the Bank premium live event, we'll look back on this video to see how bad my predictions ultimately were. This is also your opportunity to leave me your match predictions in the comments down below so that we can debate respectfully, for God's sake. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I just know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Now, if you are looking for more than just daily wrestling content, come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get so much more extra content like the Raw reviews and SmackDown reviews and so much more content that just never appears here on the YouTube. So come check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's start the predicting. In total for this video, I've booked 6 separate matches that could happen, 3 men's matches, 3 women's matches. I know that there probably won't be this many considering we tend to get anywhere from 4 to 5, but hey, it doesn't hurt to overbook for these videos. Let's start things off by talking about the World Heavyweight Champion, Jey Uso. And yes, I have him going into the show as the World Heavyweight Champion, which means I'm kind of spoiling my prediction for the Saturday night's main event match that he currently has scheduled against Logan Paul. But to the surprise of nobody, I'm predicting Jey Uso will retain the championship after that match and go into Money in the Bank as the World Heavyweight Champion. I still think that Jey Uso still has just a lot to do in terms of championship defenses and storylines that could unfold as he's the World Heavyweight Champion, and I don't want to see him lose the title this quickly. That being said, I do not have him scheduled for Money in the Bank in a World Championship defense. In fact, I'm actually taking a note out of last year's Money in the Bank PLE, where we had one of the world champions, Cody Rhodes, not defend the championship, but instead be part of a big tag team match. So that's what I have here. I do have Jey Uso teaming up with the honorary Uso, Sami Zayn, which I don't think really surprises anybody. These two guys are like PB and J. Of course, if one of the guys is going to tag, the other guy is going to come to their defense, and we've seen it happen over the last couple of weeks on Monday Night Raw with everything that's been going on with none other with Seth Rollins and of course Braun Breaker. So I do have a tag team match between these 4 guys, and honestly, this tag team match could set up a lot of things in terms of storylines. The first biggest thing that it could potentially set up is that this tag match could be the place where they unveil the magical 3rd member of the Seth Rollins faction that so many people have been theorizing about. This is a pretty common formula for WWE to take advantage of, to debut somebody in a multi-man environment like they just did with Jeff Cobb at Backlash. They did it with Tonga Loa at last year's Backlash, and I could see it taking place here as well. I don't necessarily think that Seth Rollins' faction absolutely 100% needs a new member or it's dead on arrival, but I can't help but think that it does feel like it is missing one extra piece for it to truly feel like a faction that could shape the full future of the WWE. Now, I don't have Seth Rollins going after the World Heavyweight Championship just yet because we already got a taste of it on Monday Night Raw just last week, and I do think that eventually somewhere down the line, the big end goal for Seth Rollins and his faction is to collect all the gold, including that World Heavyweight Championship, but I could see the rematch of that excellent Monday Night Raw match actually happening at SummerSlam as opposed to taking place at Money in the Bank. So instead, we're going to focus on featuring the world champion, featuring the top heel faction, and hopefully maybe debuting a new member. Now, the other aspect that could potentially unfold in this match is maybe a Sami Zayn heel turn. It's hard to visualize that, especially with the character that Sami Zayn is currently playing, and considering the fact that a few weeks after Money in the Bank, we have a show in Saudi Arabia. So I have a tough time visualizing Sami Zayn going into that show as a big heel in the WWE. So I feel that that's a lot less likely, but I think that this puts us in a position for us to at the very least think about it. But yeah, this is my first match that I'm predicting: Jey Uso and Sami Zayn teaming up against Braun Breaker and Seth frickin' Rollins. Moving on to the mid-card, and specifically the women's mid-card. I think everyone, their dog, their cat, their water coolers, were all impressed by the match that was had between Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch. So we're going to continue on this train and continue to build out the importance of the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So let's start by booking champion Lyra Valkyria to defend her Women's Intercontinental Championship in the biggest match that I could honestly fantasy book right now for this championship, that being a rematch with Becky Lynch, but also inserting Bayley into the equation. equation. Bayley and Becky Lynch just sort of make sense to go after this championship, both in terms of a story narrative with everything that's going on with Becky Lynch turning on Lara Valkyria and in the process attacking Bayley wanting the Intercontinental Championship, but then coming back to also get vengeance on Becky Lynch. So there's enough moving parts that all fit really well for this triple threat match. If the storylines start to develop as early as this upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw, for this match to develop and make sense. And not only do I want to see it just because it would help elevate the Intercontinental Championship, I just genuinely think that this would be an absolutely freaking fantastic match, especially if it's anywhere near as good compared to Becky Lynch versus Lara Valkyria at Backlash. Listen, that match at Backlash did wonders for this title, did wonders for both Becky Lynch and Lara Valkyria, in my opinion, and it's done enough for me as a fan to clamor to see more of this championship picture be delivered on the bigger shows as opposed to just Monday Night Raws. But yeah, in terms of the connection that all three of these women have to one another, the fact that you've got two first ballot Hall of Famers in this match, to me, just screams that this should be on one of the bigger shows of the year in one of the bigger markets in the country in Los Angeles. So give me Lara Valkyria versus Bayley versus Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and I would be a happy man. Let's stay with the women here. I don't think that both sets of women's world titles will be defended on this show. It tends to be a bit of a rarity that on like the not big four PLEs that both women's championships get the ability to be defended on a big stage. So I either have to pick Io Sky defending or Tiffany Stratton defending. And I decided to go with Tiffany Stratton being featured on this show. I do believe that Tiffany Stratton will continue past whatever happens with Nia Jax, probably at Saturday night's main event or on an episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I think she's going to retain the championship and go into Money in the Bank as your WWE Women's Champion, which is poetic considering it was at this very same show last year where the first domino fell for her to become that Women's WWE Champion. So now the question is, who do we book against Tiffany Stratton? Because there's a lot going on in the women's division. You have Charlotte, who just went to the back of the line. You have an Alexa Bliss that's just come back. You have Jade Cargill circling around the championship. You still have Nia Jax in the picture, but I am ultimately going to go with Naomi. And again, I ask you, WWE, please change the render of Naomi. She doesn't look like this anymore. But I'm going with Naomi being in the championship match as opposed to the Money in the Bank match because I just feel like she is the biggest threat from a heel perspective right now to Tiffany Stratton. Like when I look at all the women that are vying for this championship, they're either non-threats in my opinion, like a Charlotte Flair who's now back of the line, or Nia Jax, who I just don't think is going to be beating Tiffany Stratton soon. The other big threat to Tiffany Stratton is Jade Cargill, but I don't think that they're going to run babyface versus babyface here. I think that they would rather have Tiffany Stratton go up against a natural heel at the moment in Naomi. And let's say that we live in a world where Naomi does win the championship here. This beautifully sets us up for a WrestleMania rematch between Naomi and Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship, this time likely at SummerSlam. If Tiffany Stratton were to retain, I wouldn't hate that either because there are still several names that I would love to see Tiffany Stratton go up against, but right now, the hot new heel in the women's division is Naomi, and I would love for Naomi to be catapulted to the top of the card because this is like the most fresh and most dangerous and most, let's face it, main event that she's ever felt. Now, if you were fantasy booking this and you were to put Naomi in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, I honestly wouldn't blame you. I think that she'd be a good fit here, but I think that she's a better fit in this situation going after the championship. I also just think that this would be like Tiffany Stratton's like first like really intriguing like full championship program because just how flat on its face the Charlotte program felt going into WrestleMania. I feel like these two could genuinely work much better together, put together a solid match and an interesting program for this championship. Oh my God! Oh! Okay, that's filthy. That was and beautiful. Man, I love that spirit bomb. Oh, oh yeah. Woo! That, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at maybe the most insane backyard wrestling match that I've ever seen from BXW Backyard Wrestling. John Cena versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. CM Punk versus Raven from Ring of Honor in a Clockwork Orange Funhouse match. Keith Lee versus Penta from AAW Pro. And Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey from TNA back in 2021. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we're doing, and now we're starting a new series where we're watching every single John Cena WWE Championship victory of his career. So come check it out. That's patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment. I'm confident that if you try it even for just 1 month, that you are going to fall in love with the content and the community. But that's enough. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Let's get you back to the video. Now let's move on to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, for both ladder matches, I fantasy booked 6 individuals. So it is a little bit of a change because sometimes they have 5, sometimes they've had 7, but I'm just going to meet them in the middle and say that we're going to have 6 women and 6 men. So let's start by showing you who I have booked for the women's match. When I look at Monday Night Raw, one of the up-and-comers that's just continuously getting featured is Roxanne Perez. I absolutely see Roxanne Perez getting an opportunity here. I think that Roxanne Perez, in fact, probably should be considered one of the favorites to win this thing. Roxanne Perez, when you look at her call-up career so far, very much resembles the path that Tiffany Stratton took, really minus the championship opportunity that Tiffany Stratton got at last year's Backlash, but like so many similarities between Tiffany Stratton and Roxanne Perez's first 6 months on the main roster are something that I can see like really vividly, and maybe one of those things could be Roxanne Perez, much like Tiffany Stratton winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think that you need to have Roxanne Perez in this match. I feel like in terms of the match environment, she's a good fit, but she'd also be a threat to win the damn thing. The other person that I have on here is Julia. I think it really depends on whether or not Julia is like properly called up to the main roster. It seems like her time in NXT is done, considering she's not being featured on NXT Battleground in late May. She actually lost the #1 contendership match to Jordynne Grace. So when I look at what's left for Julia left to do on NXT, there really isn't anything. So I think at this point, you need to just fully pull the trigger on Julia and say that she's a member of the Monday Night Raw roster. And if you do pull the trigger on that before Money in the Bank, then to me, Julia being featured on here is a complete no-brainer. You absolutely need to include her on here. Now, the next person is easily the biggest star, in my opinion, out of everybody here in terms of popularity at the very least. I could make an argument for her going after Io Sky as early as this show, but I think that they're going to save that match for somewhere further down the year. That is, of course, Rhea Ripley. I feel like Rhea Ripley is a little bit of an outlier in terms of the like what type of wrestler she is in a ladder match environment, but I think that she could absolutely create some nasty spots that only somebody of the strength and body type of Rhea Ripley could cause. And it gives this match, again, that big, giant baby face for the crowd in attendance to really like chew their teeth on and really get behind. Moving on, let's talk about Charlotte Flair. And everyone starts booing, boo, boo, we don't want Charlotte Flair. But hey, it does add a lot more star power and a lot more credibility to this match to have somebody like Charlotte Flair in here. And we just saw that Charlotte Flair got moved to the back of the line. And what more back of the line would it be for the Queen to have to go through 5 other women to climb a ladder to grab a briefcase to then get a championship opportunity? That screams back of the line for me. So I'll throw Charlotte Flair in here as much groaning as this would lead to many people having. This will give us less groaning, maybe some cheers. Let's have Alexa Bliss, who's now officially back. Really, the last match that she was in was also a multi-woman match for a big opportunity at Elimination Chamber. She had a good showing there. Obviously, the fans love Alexa Bliss. There's something going on between Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair that's yet to be developed as of the making of this video that maybe could create something intriguing, something interesting, but nonetheless, I do want Alexa Bliss here. And the last person I really debated, like I almost thought Liv Morgan made a lot of sense here because she's just so good in these like multi-women matches, but I don't know if she's going to be back for this match. I don't know what her movie shooting schedule is like. So I'm going to go in a different direction in case we don't have a Liv Morgan back in the equation. I'm going to go with Jade Cargill. I could see Jade Cargill being added in this match. I could maybe even see a world where somebody costs her the match to set up a bigger rivalry, or maybe she just straight up wins the match to set up a match at SummerSlam with whoever wins between Tiffany Stratton and Naomi. But yeah, like in terms of who makes sense as a potential future world champion, I feel like Jade Cargill is right at home there. And when I look at this field, honestly, like this is a pretty exciting field. I feel like this would be an absolutely fantastic women's Money in the Bank ladder match. In terms of star power, in terms of skill, I think it's got it all. Let's move on to the men. And for the men, I decided to go in a little bit of a different route. I decided to go in the direction of having everybody in this match has never won a world title. That's what we're going for here. So let's start with the guy that debuted in Los Angeles, in this neck of the woods, in Penta. Penta obviously fits in a ladder match environment. Penta absolutely needs to be in this equation. I don't know that he would win. I know that we've been listening to the commentators say that Penta is a future world champion. So maybe there is a desire to make that happen with the World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe the first domino falls here. But more than anything, Penta is super popular. Penta just fits this environment. This is in Penta's backyard. So let's absolutely add Penta to this match. The next one that we have to add is Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio was recently talking about how he would love to be a Mr. Money in the Bank and cash in the briefcase. And honestly, out of everybody that I have on here, there's no character that fits the Money in the Bank concept better than Dominic Mysterio. So yeah, give me Dom in this. I guess we're pretty luchador heavy here because now we have Rey Fenix. Look, I think Rey Fenix would just be the spot guy, you know, and obviously there will be a cool moment in this match where he reunites with Penta to give us a taste of what the Lucha Brothers will ultimately look like somewhere further down the line. But really, I got Rey Fenix on here because it's just going to be cool to have Rey Fenix in this match. Now let's move on to somebody that would be a real contender to win this thing. I'm looking at LA Knight. I think LA Knight's time in the United States Championship picture needs to come to an end. Not because I'm tired of LA Knight, but because I feel like we've seen LA Knight do everything there, feud with everyone in that title picture. So let's move LA Knight away from that. Let's make him Mr. Money in the Bank. It's literally in LA Knight. It's just kind of perfect. And maybe we can rewrite the wrongs that happened in 2023 when we all knew that LA Knight should have won back then. So give me Mr. LA Knight in this match. I know I said let's get LA Knight away from the US title picture, but hey, if we have an Intercontinental Champion on here, let's put the US Champion on here as well. Jacob Fatu would be absolutely insane in this match. You know that he would do some absolutely insane things. And I know that the WWE is protecting Jacob Fatu from traditional losses. He doesn't have to win here because it wouldn't hurt him at all. Maybe a loss here could be because of Solo, because of Jeff Cobb, that could set something up bigger for Jacob Fatu at SummerSlam. And him losing here, it would not be a traditional pin loss, so it'd be fine. And last but not least, I have a returning Bronson Reed. And no, I am not going to ask him to do tsunamis off the top of the ladder, much like we all asked him to do a tsunami off the top of the cage because he shattered his ankle. So I'm good with just regular ass tsunamis moving forward. I'm hoping that by then, a couple of weeks beforehand, that Bronson Reed will be back from shattering his ankle at Survivor Series last year because I think that he would be an awesome addition and honestly a great contender to win this whole damn thing. But yeah, no, I think we have ourselves a really fun field, a field that would raise a lot of questions, a field that doesn't really have an obvious winner, a field that has some really talented individuals that could give us some absolutely insane spots. I honestly really like this field. And now let's move on to what would be the main event of this show. And I really struggled with this. I didn't really know what to do here. I know that I wanted John Cena going in as the WWE Undisputed Champion. So my question is, do we have a rematch with Randy Orton? I'm going to say no. I feel like WWE just marketed that as being the last time ever and that they're going to hold true to that being the last time ever. I also feel like WWE and probably John Cena himself, they want to have him face as many people as possible throughout his retirement tour so that we aren't just stuck in a loop of the same feud for multiple months when we could just have fresh faces go after John Cena, PLE after PLE after PLE. So I am going to pick somebody new going after John Cena here, but not somebody that new, somebody that has a lot of history with John Cena, somebody that's beaten John Cena for the WWE Championship, and not only that, has beaten John Cena for the WWE Championship at this very show in 2011. Give me John Cena versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. A nice callback to the time that was 2011, one of the worst years in professional wrestling. But hey, we had the summer of Punk, and it all started at Money in the Bank 2011 out of Chicago for that very same championship, the WWE Championship. And you know what's funny? What the context of the storyline was back then? It was CM Punk wanting to win the championship so that he could walk out of the WWE and steal the history and legacy of the WWE Championship belt. Now, this time around, it's a John Cena that's trying to retire into the sunset with the championship belt and take it with him. And now we would have a CM Punk that's trying to beat him to keep the championship in the WWE, thus giving us another complete role reversal, much like we had with heel John Cena and heel Randy Orton. Now we have a complete role reversal of what happened in 2011 with Cena trying to steal the championship from the WWE and CM Punk trying to save it. Honestly, I love this. I know that you could do CM Punk versus John Cena at a much bigger show, but to me, the history aligning for this to be at Money in the Bank is just goddamn perfect. Much like it was perfect for Randy Orton to be the first opponent, considering it was in St. Louis, this to me is another match made in heaven, another stars aligning perfectly. CM Punk versus John Cena, WWE Championship for the history and legacy of the WWE, and none other than Money in the freaking Bank. It's just too damn perfect. Again, you could probably throw some other names, but for this show specifically, Money in the Bank, I genuinely think that John Cena versus CM Punk is the best possible matchup for the WWE Undisputed Championship. We could maybe wait for a show in Chicago, but I don't know, man. I just like the poetic nature of this being at Money in the Bank. All right, folks, thank you so very much for watching today's video. This is your opportunity to leave down in the comments below what matches you think could happen at this show. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.